Welcome to Sunday Springboard with Melanie and Kimberlyn Coaching, where we help women recover from and flourish after stress and trauma. I'm so glad to have you with me here today. Let me share my screen with you. All right. So, what's the scariest thing you've ever done? As I was trying to think what that would be for me. Now, obviously, there are some things I did that I should have been very, very afraid of and was not. But this is the scariest thing that I can remember doing. This was this big swing. Thankfully, I had a couple friends doing it with me, so it wasn't quite as scary. But they put you on this harness, they put this hat on you, you're up in the swing, they pull you up, they pull you up, they pull you up really, really high. And then once you get up really high, they let you go and then you swing down. Really, really scary. Really, really fun. If I had not been able to conquer my fears enough to get up and do it, I would have missed out on a fun experience. What are we talking about today? We're continuing to talk about how to reduce our stress. How do we live powerful, happy, joyful lives and not let all the stresses around us bother us? So, first of all, we've talked about how to regulate our bodies in the moment when we get triggered. What do we do? I'm hoping that you've been starting to get a toolbox to try to have breathing exercises, different things that you can do when you are triggered so that you can calm yourself down, have your brain stop pouring out those hormones, which then, of course, you still have to metabolize them out of your body. But how you can start getting yourself back into a regulated spot where you can think clearly and do life. The next thing we talked about was how to eliminate the stressful situations wherever possible. Sometimes we can get out of them, sometimes we cannot. And the third part, which is the most important part, is how to decrease our reaction to stress. Because we realize it's not the circumstance that's stressing us out, it is instead our reaction to the circumstance that is stressing us out. We've been talking about core disciplines. These are concepts that when you apply them in your life, you live them out, they make you able to live more energetically, more powerfully, and less stressed. We talked about becoming aware. So many times we're just running on habits, things we've done all our life, our brain is used to, they're not serving us well, but we're not even aware. So we have to become aware first. Then we have to accept this is what's going on. This is truly reality. Now, what can I do to change it? Remember, accepting does not mean I like it or I think it's okay. It just means I accept this is what is for this present moment. Conscious choice is next. Once I'm aware and I'm accepting things, then I can make choices. I can make decisions. Where do I want to go from here? What changes do I want to make in my life? As we start to make those decisions, make those changing maneuvers, then we have to trust the process. Doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes we're going to make a mistake. We can tweak it as we go, but we don't want to jump in and out of different things without giving it time to do what it's supposed to do. The last few weeks, we've been talking about authenticity, being real, being who you are. When you are living life trying to be what someone else thinks you should be or what you think other people think you should be, that is very stressful. When you can just be you and when you can find out who you are, that is the way to live powerfully, peacefully, and full of joy. Today, we're going to start a couple of week study on fearlessness. How often does fear stop us from doing the things we want to do? What is fearlessness? What about being courageous? What's the difference? Is one better than the other? Do we want to do one or the other? That's what we're going to talk about today. Fearless versus courageous. So, first of all, what is fear? Fear is the anticipation of a negative outcome. Dictionary.com defines fear as a distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, pain, etc. Whether the threat is real or imagined, it's the feeling or condition of being afraid. Now, the words pending, and anticipation point to an important aspect of fear. And that aspect is that what you fear does not exist in the present moment. Right now, whatever it is you're going through, you're enduring, you're not fearing it. You're just living it. The things that we fear are always in the future. What we do when we fear is right now in the present moment, I look to the future. Whatever it is I decide is going to happen or I'm afraid is going to happen, I take that, I pull it down, and I bring it to now. It doesn't stop that from happening. It doesn't make me more able to deal with it if it happens. It just ruins the present moment and makes me less likely to be able to move forward in power and strength. So again, fear is not about now. You can only fear what's going to happen, or you can fear that something that happened before will happen again. Have you ever had a traffic accident? So for me, before I ever had an accident, I never thought I would. I'd drive around here, there. I would speed sometimes. I would probably, when I was younger, not drive as carefully as I should have. I never thought that I would have an accident. But then once I did have one, and it was a pretty good accident. Thankfully, I wasn't hurt, but my car was totaled. After that, I just knew it was going to happen again. Every time I got in the car, every time a car got near me, I had that feeling of fear that it was going to happen again. So sometimes we don't ever fear it, and then once it happens, then we fear that it's going to keep on happening. But it's not now. It's fear of the future, fear of something that we don't know that it's even going to happen. And so if you take this concept, the idea that fear is not now, fear is about the future, this concept could change your life. So let's talk a little bit more about fear. Fear is catabolic. Now, you know, we've talked about catabolic and anabolic energy. If those don't ring true for you, look back on my website, KimberlinCoaching.com. Look on the video tab, and you're going to scroll all the way to the bottom because the first videos I did were the 7 levels of energy. And this is how we talk about how you show up in the world. We talk about some energy is what we call anabolic. And this builds you up and inspires you and strengthens you, empowers you, and gets you ready to move. And catabolic energy, which is fear, is a catabolic energy, slows you down, it wears you out. It actually literally breaks down your body because it comes from the, or it causes your brain to pour out the catabolic hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. And these, if you live in these day to day, that actually is what defines what we talk about as trauma, the biological experience that your body has in negative stress day by day, and it tears your body down. So it drains your energy, it holds you back, it keeps you from achieving mastery because you're afraid you're going to fail. It keeps you from making the changes you desire because you're afraid. Well, right now, I know what I'm in right now. I don't like it, but I know it. The future, I don't know. It's scary. I'm fearful about what is going to happen. Again, see, I don't fear now. I fear then. Fear is a distraction. It keeps you tentative. It holds you back. It makes you procrastinate. I've seen posts of women, they'll say, I can't stand this relationship. I'm being abused. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, and that. Why can't I get out of it? And part of it, or a major part of that, is fear of what will happen. So it keeps you from doing the things that will take care of you. It keeps you from doing the things that will make you happy, that will make your life what you deserve for it to be, and what it keeps you from actually being powerful to help the people around you. It keeps you from being able to give it all, playing full out. It keeps you just back. Whereas fearlessness, having no fear, allows you to live and perform to your potential. When you're living in fear, you're living in a little box, right? This is the safe part of my life, and out here, this is fearful. As you become fearless, your world opens up. And you open up and you can breathe and you can spread your wings and your shoulders, and you can live this life that you were born to live. You can use your skills and your talents and your love in a way that brings you and the other people around you joy. So let's talk about fearlessness versus courage. These are not the same thing. Courage is acting in spite of your fears. So you're afraid, you do it anyway. Fearless means there's no fears to overcome at all. Nelson Mandela has a quote that defines courage pretty well. He says, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." Now notice that he uses the words triumph and conquer. Being courageous takes effort and energy that would be better used to take action. Certainly, being courageous and taking action in spite of your fears is better than letting your fears stop you completely. But imagine not having fears to overcome in the first place. Obviously, I know there's places that you're no way you cannot be afraid. Like our brave military out fighting for our country, for our rights. Obviously, they have some fears, but they might can have less fears if they think about it. So golfer Greg Norman has a quote about fearlessness. He says, "I never feared anything or anyone on the course, and I wasn't afraid to fail." So he's not battling or overcoming. He's simply being fearless. Fearlessness allows all his power to be directed toward his game. So imagine, think of a situation that you maybe wish you could do, you want to do, but you're afraid to do it. Think of all the energy that you put into that fear. What are you afraid of? Afraid of failing, afraid of dying, afraid of people disapproving of you. There's so many things that we can fear, and we're actually going to talk more about that later. But just imagine that for a moment, and imagine all the effort and energy you put into those fears. What if you were to take that energy and instead investing it in making the changes that you want to make in your life? You're putting all that energy into making changes, taking first steps, coming to know who you are and what is your place in this world. Just think how different your life would be. If you feel like this is a difficult thing, I don't know even how to start doing this. Is this even possible? Is fearlessness even possible? We're going to talk more about that. But also, if you would like a little more one-on-one help, there's a link in the show notes. You can contact me, schedule a session, and I would love to give you a free session, and we can talk and see whether coaching with me would be a good thing for you to do. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about fearlessness more in a more deep way. We're going to talk about the role of fear in making transitions in our lives. We're going to talk about the effect fear has on us, and then we're going to explore how to move toward truly being fearless. Is this even possible? And what difference would that make in our lives if we did that? Meanwhile, I hope y'all have a very great week, a fearless week, and I'll see you next week.